We are now welcoming to the stage Sam Richter. Sam is one of the world's top-rated motivational speakers. He's a business keynote speaker. He's a technology genius. He jumped into AI way early and has some exciting stuff to share with us with regard to marketing, with branding, with AI. Sam, welcome. Are you here?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Awesome. Great to have you here. Thank you so much for rescheduling with us. And again, two ears, one mouth. I'm going to be quiet and listen to what you have to say.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks so much, everybody. I really appreciate being invited today. And today we're going to specifically be talking about AI and how you can really use it to help with your follow through. So, how can you stay in touch with prospects and clients in ways that they care about? So, briefly, I want to tell you a little bit about my background. So, I have a background in marketing, started out in marketing as an advertising writer, a creative director, and was even got really into technology. I managed Microsoft's consumer technology division as part of an agency, built the first airlines website, actually worked for a company, was their VP of marketing, managing most of the software downloads in the world at the time. And then became a professional speaker, best-selling author. I've got 12 books. Don't go buy any of them. They're all too old. I got to write a new one. But along the way, really got involved in using AI and generative AI to actually build products. So I give you that background. I'm not only someone who talks about AI, and I'm not only someone who uses AI, I'm actually somebody who creates the AI products used by thousands of companies around the globe, and you'll get access to a couple of those today. So specifically, we want to, again, talk about really how do you use AI to stay in touch with clients and prospects? So to do that, I want to really, to start, I want to pull back the curtain on The Wizard of Oz. Remember the movie The Wizard of Oz? And there's all this magic going on in the background, and there's the yellow brick road and Dorothy. And about halfway through the movie, they pull back the curtain on the Wizard of Oz, right? And they show this little dude, and he's pushing buttons and pulling levers and all that. Well, I want to pull back the curtain on the Wizard of Oz, give you a little bit of background of what generative AI even is, because I think what I found in my career is if I can share with people, again, pull back the curtain, what this thing is, why it does what it does. Why does it lie, as an example? Then once you start using it, it makes a lot more sense. So let's start out with that. I want to talk about, again, what is generative AI and why it's a little bit different than AI, the traditional AI you might be used to. So when we think about generative AI, I'm going to kind of go back in history here. You may have heard about this guy named Alan Turing. Now, Alan Turing was really considered the godfather of computer science. And Alan Turing's, I guess, claim to fame was he worked and managed the Bletchley Project, managed the Enigma code. He cracked the Enigma code, which was the Germans' code in World War II. And he built the first, I guess, personal computer. Now, it was the size of a warehouse, but it was the first computer. And it was using machines to do things that humans could otherwise not do. And what I love is back in 1950, Turing had the vision for generative AI, the generative AI that we're using today. Turing said a computer would deserve to be called intelligent if it could deceive a human into believing that it was human. This was done back in, like I said, the 1950s. So really at the beginning of this computer science, he had the vision of AI. So when we think about AI as today, what we mean by AI today, there's really three core components of AI. So there's the traditional AI. AI is really a rules-based engine. So for example, traditional AI is a rules-based, meaning a human being inputs a rule. And we can change that rule. So for example, if I input X and I expect Y, if Y doesn't occur, then I change X. So a really good example of AI is a Roomba. So if any of you have a Roomba vacuum cleaner, it's been programmed to know that if it bumps into something to back up. That's a human rules-based engine. Now, on top of that sits what's called machine learning. So again, using the Roomba vacuum cleaner example, it's smart enough to know that as it starts going around your kitchen or your house and vacuuming up, the more things it bounces into, it knows to avoid those in the future. That's traditional AI. Input in, output. If we don't get the output that we want, then we change the input. Now, generative AI, which is ChatGPT, is completely different, and people get those confused. Generative AI is really made up of three core components: the ChatGPT, the GPT part. What does G stand for? G is generative. Now, what does that mean? That means every time you use a system, you're going to get a unique answer. It's completely different. It generates something new out of scratch. Now, the P stands for pre-training. And what pre-training means is it looks at, it's not just pulling information from the internet, it's looking at a specific database of information that it was told to train on. So ChatGPT, estimated, nobody really knows the answer, but estimated a few trillion different documents. The other types of LLMs, large language models that are coming out, Facebook's Llama, theoretically trained on every Facebook post, every Instagram post, comment, video, picture. Google's coming out with theirs. Microsoft's embedded it into their program. So different GPT systems or large language models have their own pre-training. Now, where the magic really occurs is in the transformer. The transformer is really the tool that makes everything work. So when we think of a transformer, think about it that it transposes or turns every word into a numerical expression. Now, that's nothing new, right? That's going back to original computer science, the zeros and ones, transferring to basically taking words and turning them into numbers. Where the transformer does it is for the first time, it starts looking at the context. So you may have heard these terms, tokens, vector. A token is basically every 4 letters is about a token. So for example, the word work is about 1 token. The phrase keynote speaker is about 4 tokens. So that's a token. Not that important to know, other than you'll probably hear the word tokens as it relates to different GPT type systems. Now, where it gets really cool is those tokens then are turned into what's called a vector. A vector is what makes ChatGPT work. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So if I go in and say the word apple, well, the transformer is turning that into 3 numerals. No big deal. Computer science, computers have always done that. But GPT, for the first time, these transformers are also able to look at context. So what are the words around the word apple? What are the sentences, the paragraphs, the pages? And it does this in microseconds, fractions of seconds. So the system actually knows the difference between Apple the fruit and Apple the technology company. That's never been done before. And that's all based on this ability of a transformer turning these words into numbers, but those numbers will change based on the context of the word. So the first time in history, machines are starting to think like humans. You may have heard this term neural networks. What's a neural network? In the computer world, it's basically a bunch of math that's going on in the background. But what that means is we as humans don't really think of things as X and Y. We have much more nuance because we understand context. So for the first time, computers have neural networks. They're thinking about context. Okay, what does this mean in the real world? Here's how it works. If I say to you the color of the sky is, well, the transformer is smart enough to know that the word, to remove the words that aren't important, the, of, the, is, and to assign a vector to the word color and sky. And then what it does is it looks at its entire database of words and context and trillions of documents in that pre-training model to say, okay, we're going to make a prediction. Based on everything we've learned, we think the next word is probably blue. That's why it works so well. And as you just learned, it works in video. It works in audio. It works with images. It's crazy how fast this technology is advancing. But I want to be clear, pulling back the curtain on GPT, it's basically assigning words, looking at the context of those words, and making a prediction. Now, some of you may have used ChatGPT and you said to yourself, well, this thing lies. It makes up stuff. Not really. Let me show you what's going on in the background. If I introduce the word sunset, at sunset, the color of the sky is, well, sunset is given a vector, but now the vector for the word color and the vector for the word sky are completely different than they were before because it's looking at the context of the vector of the word sunset. Now it looks into its predictive database and it says, well, we're not really sure because a third of the time it's orange, a third of the time it's red, almost a third of the time it's pink, and so it makes a guess. And so that's what's going on. The key lesson here, and we'll talk about this. We only have a short time together, so I'm not really going to get into the how to solve this. But if I could give you a 50,000 foot overview, the key is the more context you put in, the better your response. The less context you put in, the more that you're giving any GPT system permission to guess or lie. The more we put in, the more accurate our responses are going to be. Okay, so that's kind of pulling back the curtain. Now let's talk about, what does this mean to you? So when we think about generative AI, again, it's a little bit different than I guess any other types of AI systems out there, because we have to do, the technical term is prompt engineering. Now, what does that mean to you? We have to remember that when we're using ChatGPT, it's not Google. What is Google? You see, Google's really nothing more than a big vacuum cleaner. So imagine this vacuum cleaner, and it's going all over the internet. And what it's looking for, Google's going all over the internet. It's looking for a word, let's say the word house. You go into Google, you type in the word house, and Google says, well, of all the websites we've ever vacuumed up, where does that word house appear? Now, you're going to get everything from houses. Now, Google's smart. It's using AI. It's also going to know home, but maybe you're looking for the TV show House. It doesn't really know. There's no context. That's regular AI. We type something into Google. We expect a response. If we don't get the response we want, then we add more terms into Google. Again, as we've already learned, generative AI is a little bit different. So when you're using generative AI, you really have to treat it differently. You have to treat generative AI as a new employee. Completely different than using Google or any other AI-based systems, because, again, as we showed you, if we don't train it, if we don't teach if we don't teach generative AI or ChatGPT what we want, it's going to make up stuff. So just like you would a new employee, you have to put the right information into a ChatGPT system. What do I mean? So for example, if you're using ChatGPT, you could go in and you could say, give me a marketing idea for my real estate business. And you'll get a pretty decent marketing idea. But it'll probably be, we'll call it intern level, or maybe, first year out of college level in terms of how good it is. But the more you train, just like you would with an employee. So with an employee, you'd say, that's a pretty good idea. But, you got to remember that I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and our target audience at our firm is really young families. Young family means that schools are really important. You wouldn't have to do that in a Google search. You do have to put that kind of information into a ChatGPT system, because otherwise you're giving it permission to make up stuff. We don't want that. So the key here, 50,000 foot level, when you're using ChatGPT, treat it just like you would an employee. Talk to it. Have a conversation. This is not an input in, expect an output result. This is actually a generative. Remember, it's generating. We're going to have a conversation, just like you would with a new employee. Well, that's a pretty good idea, but I really want to focus more on the importance of school districts as you write our copy. Well, okay, it gives you back a response. You're like, well, that's good, but as it relates to school districts, let's really focus in on high schools. You're having a conversation just like you would with a new employee. The more specific And the more detailed you can be, the better answers, the better results you're going to get from GPT. And the key here is to continually refine. You're treating GPT, ChatGPT, or Llama, or Claude, whatever you're using, they're all the same. You're having this conversation and you want to continually refine it. So it's, again, I know I'm being redundant, not like Google, where we just type in a word, get results, type in another word, get more results. We refine our results. This is a conversation. If we don't have that conversation, if we don't continually refine, we're giving the system permission to make stuff up. So I hope that was helpful to you. Kind of a background of pulling back the curtain on generative AI. And I'm happy to take questions when we're done here on these systems. So now specifically, because we have just a short period of time together, I want to focus on generative AI in sales and one specific aspect of sales. What I really want to talk about is a tool that's free to you. So I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm going to actually pull back the curtain. We've pulled back the curtain on the Wizard of Oz, taught you what's going on. Now I'm actually going to give you the Wizard of Oz. I've created a tool for sales, for real estate agents that I think you'll really like. So let me give you the background. Instead of just going into here's the tool, let's talk about why. When we think about our customers, our real estate prospects, our real estate clients, our customers, they're amazingly passionate about one thing. What is it? Well, it's themselves. People are amazingly passionate about themselves. Yet all too often, what do we talk about in a prospect meeting? We're meeting somebody for coffee. Or more likely today, we're meeting somebody on a computer screen. We've got a 3-inch by 3-inch picture of that person. Well, let's go back. I'm going to use some date ranges. There's AD, there's CE. Anybody know what BG stands for? Well, it's before Google. How old's Google? Google just celebrated its 25th year. That's when our world really changed. I want you to go back before Google. You're a real estate agent. Show of virtual hands. How many of you were a real estate agent before Google, BG? Remember those days? We used to take prospects out for a 2-hour lunch. It was a multi-million-dollar opportunity. We'd take them to a ball game, take them golfing. We got to know our customers. Well, fast forward to today. How many of you are taking 2-hour lunches? None of us, right? And how many of us are really getting to know our prospects? Because that is your differentiating factor. It's easy to find MLS listings. We all know that. The key is, how do you really understand your customers, your prospects? And how do you stay in touch with them in ways that are relevant to what they care about? See, there's a great quote that I love, and I think it's so appropriate to the real estate agent of today. It's no longer enough to be interesting. What do I mean? What's interesting? Interesting is you got a great website. Interesting is you've probably attended a seminar like this. Oh, you've got to be on social media. You've got to have a LinkedIn profile. You got to have a blog. You got to be posting. You got to be tweeting. You got to be TikToking, putting stuff on Instagram. Guess what? Everybody's doing that. And as you've seen today, with tools like generative AI, ChatGPT, it's often free or very inexpensive to be interesting. Everybody is interesting. To succeed today, we must be interested. Interested in what the other person cares about. Now, I learned this lesson from my father-in-law, Ken Livingston. Now, Ken was a box salesman. He sold corrugated boxes. He was the #1 salesperson at Packaging Corporation of America. And at Ken's funeral 23 years ago, so I guess a couple of years AG, dozens and dozens of customers, Ken's customers, came up to my wife and they talked about, wow, Ken knew all about us. He knew about our company. He knew about our goals. He knew that my daughter just got accepted to West Point. He knew that my son got a football scholarship. He knew that my wife had cancer. He knew that we were taking a way too late, finally get to go on our honeymoon. We're going to France to a wine vacation. Now, how is it possible that at a time, if Ken wanted to talk to one of his customers, he had to take his car, find a glass booth on a corner, walk out of his car, walk into the glass booth, put a dime in this machine, and dial this phone number. For those of you who are under the age of 30, it's called a phone booth. Google it. It's really cool. But how is it possible that at a time when Ken had to do that, no access to technology, he knew more about his customers than I dare say many of you know? You see, he had a mindset. He had a mindset of relevance. What's important to the other person? What do they care about? And I think in today's digital world of CRM systems, how many calls are we making? How many people are clicking on our emails? How many people are dialing in on our special phone numbers, on our direct mail pieces? We've lost a little bit of that. We've become so data analyzed that we've lost that it's about people. This is the people business. Now, specifically as it relates to sales, let me show you what's happened. Interesting study. What percentage of salespeople, we can plop in real estate agents because we're all in sales, what percentage of salespeople make 3 contacts or less? Now, what do I mean by a contact? I reached out to them on LinkedIn, or I called them. They never returned the call. I sent them an email. They're ghosting me. What percentage of salespeople in general make fewer than 3 contacts? Well, that's 90%. 90%. Yet, what percentage of salespeople, what percentage of sales don't even progress until somewhere between the 5th and 12th contact? And what I mean progress, I'm not talking closing the deal. You're going to put a sign in their yard. I'm talking, send me some information. Sure, I'll jump on a Zoom call. Yeah, I'd be happy to get. What percentage of those? 80%. And I believe in the real estate industry, it's even more than that. It's probably 20, 30 times you got to reach out to somebody before they finally say, let's grab a coffee. I'd love to. So how do we stay in touch with people in ways that are relevant to what they care about, rather than you keep sending them pictures of houses for sale? One of the strategies I teach in my keynote programs is the value-added follow-up. Stay in touch with people in ways that are relevant to what they care about. Now, are you going to do this with every customer? Of course not. But we all have 50,000 leads at the top of our funnel. I'm talking about those 100 that we really want to do business with. How do we stay in touch with those people in ways that are relevant to what they care about? And what I talk about in my keynote presentation is find an article about their Italian wine vacation, about the NIL deals because you got a kid that's going to get a football scholarship, whatever it is. Find a piece of information that you know that they care about. And I talk about blocking off a half an hour on my calendar. I do it from 7 to 7:30 every Wednesday, where I do the value-added follow-up. Find something that's of interest to my clients, prospects that have nothing to do with me. And I could do about 3 a day, 3 a week, actually, because I could do about 3.5 hours. I have to find an article, find a report, read it, craft an email, send it off. Well, I created a tool for you. It's completely free. It's called gptfollowup.com. Watch what you can do with it. Let's say you're working with a small business owner and they said, one of the big deals we have is employee benefits. I don't know, got to attract and retain employees. They just said that. Maybe you were over lunch or something like that. Watch what you can do. You can find an article or report, type in something that you know they care about, employee benefits. And in this example, it pulls up third-party research reports from employee benefits. Now, here's the really cool thing. I don't even have to read the report. I'm just going to copy the link of the report, go into gptfollowup.com. This is going to my prospect, Bill. He works at LHD Benefits. My name is Sam. Last time we met, his dog wasn't feeling so well. Now, all I have to do is paste in the article web address, use the pull-down menu, and choose what kind of message I'd like to send. In this example, we'll do interesting research. And instantly, GPT Follow-Up will actually craft a message. It actually went out and in this example, read a 50-page report, summarized the report, put a link into the report, even asked how their dog was feeling. And now, because I use this tool on a weekly basis, 7 to 7:30 every Wednesday, now I'm doing 20. So it's a really cool, just an example of these new generative tools that actually allow you to bring your value back into the relationship. I practice the percentage 70% value, 30% sales. 70% of the time I'm reaching out to somebody, it's of value to them. Only about 30% of the time do I sell. So ChatGPT, followup.com. So let's wrap up. We talked about Alan Turing, and back in the 1950s, Alan said, again, these computers will know that they've made it once a human being can't figure out if they're talking to a computer or a human. I don't know if we're exactly there yet, but we're pretty darn close. And there's this cliche that you've probably heard. Oh, I'm totally afraid. I'm so scared of ChatGPT taking my job. And well, ChatGPT won't take your job. It's people who know how to use ChatGPT will take your job. And yes, there's probably some truth to that. That's why you're on this webinar series today, because you want to learn about these tools. You're on the cutting edge, right? But here's the reality. I was in marketing when I started out my career, and I worked with a number of big real estate agents. My community, Edina Realty, Builders Association of Twin Cities, were all my clients. And I remember when Zillow came out. Oh my goodness, this is going to be the death of the industry. No one's ever going to need a real estate agent anymore. Oh my God, I'm just going to give up my license and go do something else. Well, what happened? It wasn't the death of the industry. It was the growth of the industry. Sure, if you were a real estate agent and all you did was help people get access to MLS listings, well, kind of out of a job. But those of you who understood that the reason we need real estate agents is not the MLS listings, because that's easy. We can all go online and get that. It's your ability to understand the other person, what they care about. They care about school districts, or they care about their kids, or they've got a dog, they need a fenced yard, or whatever it might be. It's your ability to be human. And in the world of ChatGPT and generative AI, I think that's where we're going to thrive. In a crazy world, as Alan Turing said, we'll know when machines have arrived, when they act like humans. I believe your differentiating factor is your ability to be a human. Because ChatGPT can't listen. It can't care. It can't love. It can't oftentimes ask the question. You've done this before with clients where you ask the question and the client asks the question. That's not even the question that ought to be asked. That's where you're going to thrive. So use these tools like GPT follow-up, ChatGPT, to create efficiencies in your business, and then spend your time focusing on your humanity. Hey, I would love to help any of you. Reach out at any time. There's lots of different ways to reach me. Just Google my name. I'm pretty easy to find. And if we've got any time left, I'm happy to take any questions. We open up the chat room here. We'll see if there's any questions.
Sam, that was absolutely phenomenal.
Cool.
Thank you so much. I hope people do have questions, folks. We have 10, 15 minutes right now. You have access to just such a genius in marketing right now. Like, imagine this time right now is being valued at like $1,000 an hour. How much of that can you grab with a really good question?
So you can unmute yourself, I think, Rick, or just put it in the chat box. I'm happy to answer any questions. I can tell you, as you're thinking of your questions, where this is really scary is the analogy I use in my presentations is, think about, everything I just described, everything you're learning about today didn't exist 1 year ago. ChatGPT's been around, or OpenAI has been around since about 2018. But in terms of a publicly available tool, it really came out in December of 2022. So we got to remember here, folks, give yourself a break. December of 2022, if I were to use an analogy, we were witnessing the Wright brothers launching their airplane. Now talk about the speed of change. By February of 2023, we already had jet airplanes going all over the planet. By about now, August of August, September, October of 2023, we actually had landed a person on the moon. February, March of 2024, when Google comes out with its version of GPT, and Apple and Microsoft's already embedding it. It's not very good yet, but it's getting better with Copilot. We will be exploring the solar system. That's how fast this is moving. Give yourself a break. It's okay. Get knowledgeable on these technologies. Start using them. Understand what's going on. Focus on your humanity, because that will all, no matter where technology goes, that's still going to always be your differentiating factor. So a question here, can we tell GPT not to guess when it has the 30-30-30 thing to avoid hallucinations? Yes, that's a great question. So what that's called is, I put it in there just for a brief moment, it's called prompt engineering. And a lot of times I hear from people, oh, again, ChatGPT makes up stuff. Well, again, it's just making a guess. It's making a prediction. So if I go in into ChatGPT and I say, write me a sales letter, I've got a new home. You can use like a ChatGPT plugin or even ChatGPT if you pay. By the way, pay for the $20 version. Come on, $20 a month. My goodness. If you can't get an ROI in $20 in the first 10 minutes, okay, we've got much bigger problems with your business. All right, so you pay for the $20. That gives you access to plugins. And with a plugin, you can search the web, meaning you can put an MLS listing in there. Write me a sales letter with this MLS listing, and it'll do a good job, but it's still going to be guessing. It's your responsibility to go in and add additional detail about what you want. Well, I really want to focus on the school district, or I really want to focus on the beautiful yard. Again, the biggest takeaway here, besides gptfollowup.com, the biggest takeaway is this is not a database. This is not Google. You're not searching for anything. You're having a conversation with a brand new employee. I know that sounds weird, but that's what's going on. So if you've got a new employee and the sales letter is not exactly the way you want it, or it's making up something, then it's your responsibility to go in and tell it what you want. The more detail you put in, the better answer you're going to get out. Think of it like a new employee.
Sam, what would your advice be when people are looking to establish a brand and get their marketing out there? How do they use ChatGPT to establish a brand or figure out what their brand is?
Well, that's a great question. Well, first of all, you can go in there if I were doing. So one of the things you ought to do, can I share my screen? I'm going to do that. I'm going to show something.
You should be able to share it.
Okay. I'm going to show something that's pretty cool. Let me go to a browser screen that has ChatGPT in it. All right. So I'm going to do a new chat. Okay. I'm going to share my screen here. And okay. Can you see that? Can you see ChatGPT?
Aces over kings.
Okay. This is why you spend the $20. In the lower left corner here, I'm going to click on my username, Sam at SBR. And I'm going to go, you see this little link here called custom instructions? I'm going to click on this. This is why you pay the $20. Because I go in here and I tell ChatGPT who I am. Who I am, who my audience is, what are my goals, what do I care about? My primary goal is to. So if I were a real estate agent, and the nice thing is you can see when I hovered over here, ChatGPT said this is what you should put in this area. Where are you based? Well, I'm a real estate agent based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Who do you work for? I work for Keller Williams. I work for Edina Realty. What are your hobbies or interests? What subjects can you talk about for hours? What are some of the goals you have? So go in here and, I have a spelling error, so I got to fix that, or a grammar error, excuse me. Go in here and tell ChatGPT who you are and what you like. And then this is also really important. How would you like ChatGPT to respond? How formal, how creative, how long or short? So for example, as you can see, I tell ChatGPT that I want it to be professional. I don't want it to make up stuff. When using stats quotes, always reference your source. And then I like my data organized using headings, subheads, and tables where appropriate. Now, here's the really cool thing. Because I pay the $20, I can save this, meaning that every prompt I create is going to already have that information about me in there. So I don't have to. Now, again, if I was a real estate agent, I tell it it's a real estate agent. I don't have to tell it every single time I'm a real estate agent. Now, again, I talked about plugins. So I'm going to use ChatGPT 4. I'm going to go find a plugin. So I'm going to use, as an example, I'll use Web Pilot. So this is a plugin. It's a free plugin. Now watch what I can do. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say, please review my website and craft a brand positioning statement for me. All right. Now remember, I've already told ChatGPT who I am. If I hadn't done that, I'd want to put that in here too. And it could be ChatGPT is a little slow right now. But in general, what it's going to do, and here we go. The URL, that would have been helpful. So www. See, I'm having my conversation with my new employee. My new employee said, Sam, I'd love to look at your website, but you didn't even bother to tell me what it is. So now it's using Web Pilot. It's going out and looking at my website. And give it a couple minutes, but it will actually craft a brand positioning statement for me. Now, once it's done doing that, here we go. And now notice, remember I told ChatGPT how I like my information delivered. I like headers, subheaders, those sorts of things. Okay, this is brilliant. Like, thank you so much, Rick, for asking this question, because I've always wanted a brand positioning statement, and that's way better than I would have written for me. And then remember, because I told ChatGPT that I like my information delivered in subheads and headers and subheads, I didn't even ask for this, but it created it for me. So again, for you, you'll go in here under custom instructions and you'll put your own custom instructions in here. Who you are, what are your goals, what's important to you, what do you want to be known as? Just craft the paragraph. You can always change it, save it. And then now, when you ask it to craft a brand positioning statement, or even say a sales letter, using this brand positioning statement, watch this. Create a competitive analysis. I got to move this so I can actually see what I'm typing.
I had that same issue earlier.
Yeah. So I can't read my own writing here. Positioning statement. Create a competitive analysis between me and the professional speaker Ross Bernstein at.
And for folks who are wondering, how do you put in that information for the custom profile? You can actually ask ChatGPT,
Yes, you
what
can.
information do you need from me
For my
to
customer
create
profile.
a compelling 1,500 character custom profile? And then the custom response. Ask ChatGPT, help me help you become a better employee. What questions do you need me to answer so that I can put better information into my custom profile to get better automatic responses and embedded information?
Rick, what you just said is 100% right, because you're having a conversation with your new employee. What information you're a new employee. What information do you need from me to learn about me and my real estate business? So again, remember, I've gone in, my custom instructions are professional speaker, yours could be real estate agent. But watch what, using this brand positioning statement, create a competitive analysis between me and the professional speaker, Ross Bernstein. He happens to be my best friend. Or actually, I'm going to use Bruce Turkel. Well, I don't remember what his website is. So, because I know you just had Bruce, but let's see what it does here. So it's going to use Web Pilot. But remember, because I've already created my custom instructions, it already knows who I am. It's going to go out and read Ross Bernstein's website. And now it's going to create a competitive analysis for me. How crazy is that? So when people ask, well, how would I use this ChatGPT thing? I don't get it. Yeah, because most of you go in there and you type in, write me a sales letter, and it spits something out, and you're like, I could have done that. My intern could have done that. Well, you've got to treat it like a new employee. You got to use your custom instructions. Go in there, tell it what you want. Look at this. It's even adding me. It's giving me information that I didn't even know I wanted.
It's also pointing out areas on your website that you might want to update, like the number of events you do. If you can look at
Exactly.
your competitor's website and go, oh, I'm missing that. Let me go
Exactly.
update my website.
Yep. Not specified. So anyhow, that's just like a quick example of when you treat this like a new employee, you use your custom instructions, and you give it more information. Now, I could have continually refined that. I could have gone back in because, again, we want to have a conversation. I might say, this is wonderful. Give me 3 ideas on how I could differentiate from Ross in a social media post. I mean, I'm just making this up. But that's where you have, again, you're treating it like a new employee, and we're continuing to have this conversation. Any other questions at all? I think we're coming up on our time here.
I'm going to double check for our next speaker, and you can keep talking until he's in the room. But I think he might be here. Good
So,
friend of yours, actually, he is here. Jerry,
I'm
welcome.
here.
yeah,
I'm here, Rick.
one last thing that Shayna just corrected me. It looks like she says, and again, stuff is changing all the time. She says that you can actually do the custom instructions in the free version. So that's awesome. So you can do the custom instruction. Pay the $20. You get I'm not an employee of them. I'm not a shareholder, but you get the plugins and you can do a lot more. So, hey, Rick, thanks so much. Look forward to seeing some of you when you sign up for GPT follow-up. You'll get weekly emails from me that talk about a different tool that you can use in there. So have fun. Thank you so much. And it's really been fun to be with you today, Rick. I appreciate it.
Hey, Sam, thank you so much. I learned a lot. I was taking notes just furiously. I'm going to go back and watch the recordings, and the recordings are available to anybody. Just go register at AIadvantageSummit.com, register for the VIP. It's a very nominal fee. And we'll have the recordings out probably within 48 hours. Sam, that was so powerful, and you bring such a wealth of knowledge. Everybody should go use that ChatGPT follow-up tool of his. Really powerful way to bring your humanity back to your communication and get rid of the artificial intelligence. Man, I was taking notes. I actually posted quotes from you to Facebook
That's
while
awesome.
you're doing it because I was so inspired.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good luck to everybody. Thank you.